get this energy pumping a little bit. Okay, so what you have in your agenda is completely wrong. I don't know who made that title up. I'm going to talk to you today about basically customer-led growth, which ties in really nicely to what Alex talked about this morning, because we are in the business of generating recurring revenue. So we're going to talk about 3 things in the next 18 minutes. We're going to power hour through the recurring revenue model, customer-led growth, and the 3 biggest challenges that I'm seeing today with the companies I'm working with that are impeding their growth. Are you ready? Hold on tight because I speak very, very quickly. All right, so we're in the business of driving recurring revenue. However, our models don't support this. What do I mean by that? Well, let's take a look at the traditional lead funnel. Has anyone else seen? Does anyone else here who runs a company use this model to manage their leads? Leads, opportunities? Yeah, okay, that's awesome. This is the wrong model, though. It's a good start. Okay, we have revenue. This is a good thing, okay? We raised some capital on the promise that we are going to drive some revenue. We have this revenue. However, we are recurring revenue businesses. Where's the recurring? Where does it exist? It doesn't in this model. So let's flip this model a little bit on its side. All right, here we go. And let's pull up the right side of the funnel. This is where I live. This is my comfort zone. So we have revenue over here on the left, and on the right, we have recurring. What is this recurring? Recurring, it's recurring impact, okay? So you win a bunch of customers. Awesome, way to go. But now we actually need to activate them. We have to onboard them. How do we do this? We drive impact, right? First impact, that moment that your customer is like, okay, I can see the promised land. I can see why I actually bought this in the first place. All right, don't take a picture yet. It builds, it'll get better. Okay, so next step, now we gotta get them to use the product. All right, so we're gonna get them to do more impact, okay? So are they using it? Are they bringing more users on? Okay, that's a good start. But are they actually achieving impact? What is impact? Are they driving more revenue? Are they saving time? Are they making them feel better? Are they reducing risk? All of these things are measurable, and we want them to achieve these things when they're using the product. And the last way we get recurring impact is growing, okay? It's not enough if they just renew. We want them to grow. All right, so here is the model. Recurring revenue is the result of all this recurring impact. So leads, great, get them in. And then let's create recurring impact so we can get that recurring revenue. Okay, so when we sell, what we're doing is we're promising. It's a future promise that you will achieve this impact. And when you think about what happens on the world of customer success, that is the impact realized. It's a really important distinction because we want to sell on this promise, but then we can't just drop the ball there. We have to actually deliver on that promise with results. And the nice thing about that is it actually can fuel a lot of your growth. Okay, so if you take one thing away, this is the money slide. If you take one thing away, it's recurring revenue is the result of recurring impact. And so you're actually in the business of delivering and driving recurring impact for your customers. The revenue piece happens. All right. Next up, how do we achieve this with a customer-led growth? So this is the most traversed path that we're used to doing, right? We sell a bunch of customers as many as we can. We have this maniacal focus on sales, 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 sales. Look at the pipeline. How's our conversion rates? Are we closing deals? What does this look like? Get new leads in, make them love you. There we go. We got our revenue. But is this really the path? I think Alex just showed us earlier this morning. This isn't actually happening, right? Especially right now. New companies aren't creating budget for your product or service. So how do we grow? Well, what if there's a new way? Let's figure out, what if there's a different path? We still have to bring in new leads. I'm not saying like fire your entire sales team at all. We still need to bring them in. However, remember the whole right side of the funnel? Recurring impact? I'm gonna talk about recurring impact a lot here. So what if we achieve that impact together? And then with your customers, we grow. And that fuels future momentum. I'm talking about things like if you sell customers that aren't renewing, let's look at those customers and let's figure out, hey, maybe we're selling the wrong people here. Let's adjust. Don't just sell and bring a ton of money to your bottom line and then churn them out. Because chances are your payback period's longer than 12 months. Chances are it's closer to like 18 months, maybe 24 months. So if you're losing them in that first year, you might as well just pay a bunch of money for nothing. Okay? So make them love you and grow together. So how do we grow together? Well, one way is your existing customers can actually help accelerate new deals, right? We know this. Referrals, references, customer stories. Leverage these, right? How quickly does a referral deal, someone who's, warm intro, close? Like 40% faster. That costs you less, closes faster, and chances are it's going to be a higher amount. If one of your best customers goes to another company, they're going to buy you again. And they're probably actually going to buy you at a higher rate than they did before, and they're going to stay with you, right? This is a really incredible way that you can use your existing customers to accelerate that new deals. Bring in references early. Generate incredible customer stories and make customer storytelling part of the culture of your business. And the second way that customers fuel your growth are by actually selling to those customers, right? Increasing your revenue per customer. I'll get to that a little bit more later. So customer-led growth drives exponential revenue. We all want exponential revenue, right? This is what our company's valuations are built on. So how do we get that customer revenue or exponential revenue? So if you just sell a bunch of customers and you multiply it by the revenue you're generating, this is like we'd still probably be relatively happy if our growth models look like this, but we want it to be better. Every time you renew, you are converting, you are multiplying or by an exponent of that number of periods that they renew with you. So if they renew for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, now that, Alex, would you prefer that hockey stick? Yeah, exactly. We'd rather see this. Okay, so while we're all here for giving our marketing sales teams a really hard time for getting more leads, converting more leads, bringing more customers, we got to put some pressure on the customer success team over here. Let's renew them better. Let's renew them at a higher rate. Okay, so customer-led growth is going to fuel the exponential growth for your business. Now we need to understand how to do this. So the 3 biggest challenges I'm seeing right now impacting growth with companies I'm working at. The first one is activation onboarding. You're all messing this up. And if you think you're not, look at your rates. A quick question, and you may not know this, but is anyone actually measuring the percentage of customers who actually closed, who successfully onboard or successfully activate? Awesome. We've got 3 or 4. Are you happy with that number? No. Mm-hmm. A really interesting reason why companies or customers don't activate or onboard properly is we don't necessarily speak to the person responsible for doing that. So a lot of it's motivation, right? A restaurant owner buys a restaurant technology and then asks their GM to go implement it. Okay, well, I don't know if anyone's run a restaurant here. My husband did for 9 years. You're busy 24/7, 3 a.m., calls from drunken chefs who've locked their keys in the restaurant. But they don't have time to do this, right? Chances are their lives were really, really busy before they even got the chance to even know about your software. So how are they going to take the time it takes to do this? Emotional impact. Why is this going to make my life better? Don't let your team skip over talking about that, right? I encourage them to take the time to understand what's going to motivate them to actually spend the day and a half it's going to take to implement your software or your tech. Okay, so activation is so critical. Now, only 4 people out of all of you, and I know not all of you are running companies, said that they actually measure it. Measure the following things. How many of your customers are getting to what I'll call first impact, which is that moment when they're like, okay, this is why I bought. I see the future and it's worth it. It's just like a little tiny smidgen of impact. And then how many are actually getting to full impact? Like the reason why they bought within a good chunk of time, right? If it's a 12-month contract and they're not getting to that until month 9, you're kind of SOL. The second thing is, so it's what percentage of customers are getting there and in what period of time. Just start with that. And then you can start doing fun things like segmenting and adjusting. But start with that. Look at your activation and onboarding and figure out what's going wrong. The second thing I'm seeing is I'll call it in conversion rate 3 to 4. So if you look at every single one of these points, marketing comes in, converts MQL to SQL, that will be conversion rate number 1. So conversion rate 3, 4 is right before the close. I'm seeing a ton of deals going dark. Anyone else? Going dark? No, none of your deals are going dark. Your sales teams are killing it. And just every deal gets into sort of like the discovery is closing. Okay, we got 100% conversion rate right now in the audience from demo to close. Congratulations, that's awesome. For those of you who are lying, here's what we got. A lot of sales teams are leaving it up to chance. They're like, okay, they go, they do their thing, and then obviously client who has no budget, it's getting their like breathing down their neck from CFO, don't buy any more tech. It's like, okay, cool, this is really interesting. Let me go take this back to my team. You've just killed the deal. If your sales rep is not trained in understanding and manipulating the conversation to make sure that they are part of that next conversation, you have fundamentally lost that deal, and you've left it all up to chance. We don't want to leave our sales up to chance. We want to own that, right? So this is a training thing. And most sales leaders I speak to, they do training. They are not sitting on calls. They are not pinpointing the moment when clients say to them, got it, I'm going to go back to my team. At that moment, you pause the call and you say, all right, what are 3 questions we can ask to make sure that you're part of that next conversation? This is the diligence we need, because once they're at this point, you don't want to lose them. They're like dating you. They kind of like you. They want to make out with you a little bit more. Don't lose them, okay? And then the last thing that I'm seeing is growth. I love this, right? I've sat in the world when I was at startups. I've sat on this right-hand side of the bow tie almost my entire career, and I've consistently outsold sales teams. My team or myself alone has consistently outperformed the revenue of my sales team. That's huge. How do we do this? Okay, one way. Here's a tip. We're all in Canada. We all love farmers markets. Our season of buying strawberries is almost over. When we go to farmers markets, though, it's amazing, right? We go out, it's beginning of the season, strawberries, I'm going to buy a quart of strawberries, amazing. And then as the summer goes on, more berries come out, it's amazing. I don't know, maybe I'm really into fresh local fruit more than anyone else in this audience, but okay. So you show up a couple weeks into the summer, and it's like, you got more than strawberries. Do they sell you all of these things for the same price as you bought a quart of strawberries for? They're like, oh, you bought strawberries for $3.50? Great, let me just throw in a quart of blueberries and a quart of blackberries too. No, they don't. They make you buy each one individually. Why am I telling you all this? Because we don't think of our products like this. We're so focused on, let's add new products into what they bought. Let's give them more. 2 things are happening. 1, you're not selling to them. 2, you're not even telling them about it. So even if you're giving it to them for no additional cost, you're not even telling them, so it's not even helping you generate. What do we want to do here? Yes. Oh, God, I love you guys. Generate impact. Okay, so there's 4 ways to think about how you generate impact and what that means. Okay, so renewals, super duper easy, right? That's just like, okay, sign up for another year. You think it's easy. If you actually do the things early on, generating impact, the renewal doesn't even happen. It's not even an occasion. It's just like, okay, yeah, we're renewing. That's okay. What we want to do is we want to add more, though. Let's sell them some blueberries. Let's sell them some of those blackberries. Maybe it's peach season coming up. Let's get in some of those. Look at your products. What of your products that you've just or like features and functionality that you've lumped into this general subscription is actually generating enough value on its own? Can you spin it off? Can you break it off? Say, we're actually going to sell this as an add-on. Chunk it out. But you need people to do it. The year of customer success being a cost center is over. Customer success teams need to generate revenue. They're not support people. And if you think about them, they're support people, then just throw them in support. They need to generate revenue. They don't necessarily have to go out and be that used car salesperson that we all, makes us have this aversion to doing sales. But they need to sell by delivering impact. And they're the best people to do it, especially if they're selling to the same person and along the same lines of what you're offering. It gets a little more complicated. This is the worst when you have to resell it. No one ever wants to do that. New champion comes in, all these things. We're not going to talk about that today. That gets really complicated. But the cross-sell or the expansion is really exciting, cross-selling. This is where it does get a little complicated because do you introduce another team? Maybe. Is it worth enough to do another team? Do you have clear roles defined as to what people are doing so that way you're not stepping on each other's toes? I once looked at a company, they had 11 different people reaching out and connecting with the customer throughout its life cycle. 11 different people. Do you know how confusing that is? That's after the sale. It's really complicated. And a lot of times we just kind of get there, right? You've been growing a company, you've been scaling, and all of a sudden you show up and you're like, I got 10 different people have the same job title and they're doing 10 different things. No wonder my customers are confused. No wonder they're not renewing at the clip I want. No wonder they're not growing. They don't even know half the crap we're doing over here. Okay? So develop your growth funnel within your customer success team. Think about how you want to sell to your customers, what you want to sell to your customers, and build that playbook out. So we've talked about the recurring revenue model. Recurring revenue happens after or as a result of? Yes, recurring impact. Customer-led growth fuels exponential growth. And we do this by activating our customers in the right way, really controlling the sale, and growing and expanding our customers. One last thought. Okay, where you are as a company and how you got to where you are today is not what you need to do to get you to the next stage. And this is the fundamental challenge I see so often with companies. Like, oh, I just raised a Series B. We just hired a whole bunch of people, and now all of our numbers are going down. It's because what got you there can't get you to the next stage. If you're founder-led sales, your sales team of 5 people can't actually do what you did as a founder. You need to try and figure out how to transfuse all that knowledge and those great stories and some of those, great questions you ask, but they have to do it differently. So figure out where you are and where you need to go and make those necessary changes, right? Do you need to continue doing what's working? Do you need to look at things and say, oh, these things aren't working very well? I need to actually adjust it and figure out how we scale that. Because if you scale, and I have seen this with $100 million companies, if you scale the wrong thing, eventually it comes to really, really, really hurt. So we want to make sure it's right and it's performing like a well-oiled machine before we actually scale that process. And then once you scale it, because that's going to take off. Thank you, everyone, for being such a little higher energy. Let's see how it goes in the afternoon as more and more coffee kicks in. I wrote a white paper on how to create customer success as a profit center. This is just a QR code that connects to my LinkedIn. If you want to connect with me, I will send you that white paper, and I share a lot of content, little snippets on LinkedIn. So hopefully that was helpful, and feel free to chat with me later if you want to know more.